Have you ever looked at the woman beside you and wondered if she's truly satisfied and are just pretending not to hurt your feelings? I've heard that question whispered in different ways for years from men who seem confident in every other part of life, but feel lost when the lights go out. They tell me about the quiet after sex, the moment when excitement fades and doubt creeps in. Did I do something wrong? Why did she pull away? And the truth is, most of them aren't failing because they lack passion or desire. They're failing because they've been lied to over and over again. Porn movies, even their friends taught them that pleasure is about size, speed, and stamina. But that version of intimacy is like junk food, quick, flashy, and empty. It leaves her body untouched where it matters most and leaves him wondering why connection feels so far away. I've spent years listening to men who carry that silent frustration, men who think they're broken when all they really need is better guidance, not another pill, not another ego boost, but real understanding of how a woman's body and mind respond to touch. And that's exactly what we're going to uncover today. Because once you understand the science of her pleasure, how her body warms, opens, and responds, everything changes. You stop performing and start connecting. You stop chasing and start leading. So stay with me because in the next few minutes, I'll share 5 proven practical shifts that can turn hesitation into confidence and make her feel something she'll never forget. The first mistake I see in almost every man who comes to my office is this: they rush. They rush the kiss, they rush the touch, they rush the entire act, as if pleasure were a race to the finish line. But women's bodies don't respond to speed. They respond to build up. One of my patients, a 52-year-old man who'd been married for over 20 years, once told me, "I thought my wife just lost interest with age." When I asked him how long his foreplay lasted, he said maybe 30 seconds. That silence in the room said everything, because what he didn't realize is that her body simply hadn't caught up yet. Here's the science behind it. On average, it takes a woman between 18 and 20 minutes of consistent arousal for full vaginal blood flow and lubrication to peak. That's not a myth, it's physiology. The walls of the vagina need time to relax and expand. The blood vessels in the pelvic region dilate gradually, and the nervous system shifts from guarded to open. If you enter too soon, her body is still in defense mode, not pleasure mode. Think of it like starting a car on a cold winter morning. If you slam the gas before the engine's warm, it sputters, burns fuel inefficiently, and stalls. But if you let it warm, every system runs smoother. The same goes for intimacy. Slow doesn't mean boring, it means efficient, connected, and unforgettable. So what should you actually do? Start with presence, not pressure. Slow down your breathing, match hers. Let the moment expand instead of chasing it. Gentle, shallow thrusts, no force, no hurry. Pay attention to how her muscles respond. When she begins to move back toward you, that's the signal that her body's ready, not your arousal, hers. I've watched couples completely transform their connection just by applying this one change. In a small 2023 clinical study, men who consciously slowed their initial pace increased their partner's reported satisfaction by over 40%. Not because they lasted longer, but because they created safety first. And when a woman's body feels safe, it opens. When it opens, it feels. Here's something most men never realize: the real pleasure doesn't come from friction, it comes from synchronization. When your rhythm matches her readiness, you're no longer performing, you're communicating. And if you think slowing down might make things less exciting, you're in for a surprise. Because what happens next isn't just passion, it's anticipation. And anticipation is the strongest aphrodisiac there is. But slowing down is only the beginning. Once you've learned to match her pace, the next step is learning how to build her desire higher than she's ever felt before by giving her pleasure, then taking it away and making her body beg for its return. When you finally slow down enough for her body to open, something fascinating happens. She starts responding, guiding, moving in sync with you. That's where the real dance begins. But here's where most men lose the rhythm. They think once she's aroused, it's time to go all in. In reality, that's the perfect moment to pull back. One of my patients, a 47-year-old entrepreneur, told me once, "Doc, I do everything right at first, foreplay pacing, but somehow she still loses interest halfway through." When I asked him if he ever slowed down on purpose once she was fully turned on, he looked at me confused and said, "Why would I stop when it's working?" Because that, I told him, is exactly why it stops working. See, pleasure isn't a straight line. It's a wave. Neuroscience studies from Rutgers University show that when sexual stimulation rises and then slightly drops, dopamine levels spike even higher when the next wave hits. In other words, controlled frustration builds deeper satisfaction. You're literally teaching her brain to crave you. So here's how you turn teasing into an art. When you sense her breathing getting heavier, when her body tightens against you, don't rush the finish. Ease back, shorten the stroke, lighten the touch, maybe even pause to kiss somewhere unexpected. Her body will tense, searching for what just disappeared. That micro moment of almost creates a neurological echo that multiplies the pleasure when you give it back. Think of it like charging a battery. If you never stop to let the charge build, you'll drain it too fast. Teasing isn't withholding, it's amplifying. You're creating peaks and valleys that make the final climax feel volcanic instead of mechanical. And yes, it takes confidence to pause when everything in you wants to push forward. But that's exactly what separates good lovers from unforgettable ones. She won't remember how long you lasted. She'll remember the moment she couldn't tell where her body ended and yours began. Men who master this technique often tell me their partners start initiating intimacy more often. Why? Because anticipation becomes addictive. Once her nervous system links you with that pattern of tension and release, she'll crave the feeling and she'll crave you. When you understand that teasing is not about denial but design, you stop being reactive and start being the architect of her desire. And the best part, you don't need to guess. Her body will tell you exactly when to slow, when to pause, and when to give in. You just have to listen, but teasing alone isn't enough because even the most perfect rhythm can fade if it never changes. The next step is learning how to surprise her body, how to shift tempo, depth, and angle in ways that keep her nerves awake and her mind guessing. That's where the real magic happens. If slowing down, builds anticipation, teasing builds desire, but variation, that's what keeps desire alive. Because once her body learns your rhythm, it stops reacting to it. Predictability is the silent killer of pleasure. I remember a couple who came to me after 15 years of marriage. The husband told me, "We have sex, but it feels mechanical, like a script we're both tired of." When I asked what he meant, he said, "Same pace, same pattern, same ending." That's when I told him something that completely changed their dynamic. The body adapts. Our nervous system thrives on novelty. It's called sensory habituation. The more a stimulus repeats, the weaker the response becomes. A 2022 study from the Kinsey Institute found that couples who introduced changes in pace and rhythm during intimacy reported a 60% higher arousal intensity compared to those who followed repetitive movements. In simple terms, sameness numbs the senses, change wakes them up. So how do you bring this to life? You don't need complicated positions or movie-style tricks. You just need awareness. Try switching between slow, deep movements and shorter, quicker strokes. Pause mid-flow and hold still for a breath. Let that silence do the talking. Then pick up the pace again. This unpredictability keeps her mind guessing and her body craving. One of my patients once told me, when I started changing the rhythm, not randomly, but intentionally, my wife told me it felt like we were dancing instead of doing a routine. That's exactly it. You're not just moving, you're composing. Her body becomes your instrument, and variation is how you play the song differently every time. And there's another benefit: men don't expect control. By alternating tempo and intensity, you actually reduce overstimulation, helping you last longer without feeling forced. Think of it as surfing. The wave builds, you ride it, then pull back before it crashes. The control doesn't kill the moment, it makes the next wave even stronger. Every time you switch the pace, you reset her focus, you reawaken her attention. And when she doesn't know what's coming next, her brain releases tiny bursts of dopamine, the same neurochemical responsible for excitement and addiction. You're literally turning surprise into chemistry. But remember, it's not about chaos, it's about contrast. Fast feels thrilling because slow exists. Shallow feels teasing because deep exists. That balance keeps the body engaged and the mind lost in the experience. When you master tempo, you stop being predictable, and predictability is the enemy of passion. And just when you think rhythm is everything, there's a deeper, secret waiting one that has nothing to do with thrusting at all. Because the next level of connection isn't found in speed or pressure. It's found in contact, skin to skin, hip to hip. It's the difference between motion and meaning. And that's where we go next. You see, rhythm keeps the body awake, but contact keeps the connection alive. This is where most men get it wrong. They think sex is all about in and out motion, when the truth is the most sensitive part of her body isn't inside at all. It's around it. I remember a man in his late 50s who came to me frustrated. He said, "Doc, I've tried every position in the book, but she still doesn't reach climax unless I use my hands or mouth. Am I doing something wrong?" I smiled and told him something that completely changed his perspective. You're not doing too little, you're doing too linear. Let me explain. The clitoris isn't just the small pearl you see on the outside. It's actually a complex structure that extends deep beneath the skin, wrapping partially around the vaginal canal, almost like a wishbone. When you focus only on thrusting, you're missing most of that network. But when you grind, when your pelvis stays pressed against hers, moving in slow circles or subtle shifts, you activate that entire system of nerves. Think of it like tuning an instrument. Thrusting is percussion, loud and direct. Grinding is melody fluid, emotional, continuous. Together they create the kind of rhythm that her body remembers, and there's science behind it too. MRI studies from the University of Groningen found that female arousal lights up a wider range of brain regions when the clitoral network is stimulated through pressure and friction, not just penetration. That's why positions like missionary cowgirl or spooning, where the bodies stay closely aligned, tend to produce deeper satisfaction than ones focused solely on motion. Grinding also changes the psychological tone of intimacy. It's not about taking, it's about merging. When your hips move together, chest to chest, your breath synchronizes. Her heart literally starts beating in rhythm with yours, a phenomenon called cardiac entrainment observed in couples during sustained body contact. In simpler words, her body begins to mirror you. And for men who worry about control, here's the bonus: grinding naturally reduces overstimulation. You gain stamina without even thinking about it. It's gentler, steadier, more connected, and ironically, far more powerful. The best lovers aren't the ones who move the fastest. They're the ones who move with her. But here's the real beauty of it. When you master this kind of connection, something changes in her. 2, her body relaxes, her guard drops. She starts moving with you, not reacting to you. That's when the line between giving and receiving disappears. And that's exactly where your focus needs to be next. Not just on what you do, but on what you notice. Because the final step isn't about motion at all. It's about awareness, the quiet skill that turns good sex into unforgettable intimacy. Once you've learned to move with her instead of against her, the next step is deceptively simple: pay attention. Because all the technique in the world means nothing if you're not present. I've met hundreds of men who could list every position, every trick, every hack they'd seen online, but still their partners described feeling disconnected. One woman once told me he was there physically, but his mind was somewhere else, counting seconds, checking performance, not feeling me. That line stuck with me because it revealed the real problem. He was having sex, not sharing it. When you pay attention, everything changes. Her breathing, her moans, the way her legs tense or her hands pull you closer, these are all signals. They tell you what she loves, what overwhelms her, what she wants more of. No app, no video, no article can teach you that only she can. Physiologically, this awareness even has a name: interoceptive attunement, the ability to tune into another person's internal state through subtle cues. Neuroscience shows that couples who are highly attuned to each other experience synchronized brainwave activity, releasing more oxytocin, the bonding hormone, and lowering cortisol, the stress hormone. In other words, presence isn't just emotional, it's chemical. I tell my patients all the time, pleasure isn't about what you do, it's about what you notice. Notice when she starts to breathe faster. That's not the moment to rush. That's the moment to linger. Notice when her body arches away. She might be overstimulated. Slow down and let the tension rebuild. Notice when her voice drops to a whisper. That's her body saying, "Don't stop." When you start reading these signs, instead of guessing, sex stops being a performance and becomes a conversation, one made entirely of movement, sound, and feeling. And here's the part that surprises most men. This kind of deep awareness doesn't just make her more satisfied, it rewires you too. You start feeling more in control, more connected, more confident, because you're no longer chasing an outcome, you're leading an experience. In one 2024 survey by the Journal of Sexual Medicine couples who practiced mutual attunement, that's the technical term for active awareness during intimacy, reported a 70% increase in emotional closeness and a significant drop in anxiety and performance pressure. It's not magic, it's mindfulness applied to touch. So here's my message to you: stop trying to impress her, start trying to feel her. The way she breathes, moves, sighs, that's your roadmap. Every woman's body speaks its own language, and the best lovers are simply the best listeners. And if you've been afraid of failing, of being too old, of not measuring up, understand this awareness is ageless. Connection doesn't depend on youth, it depends on focus. You don't need to be perfect, you just need to be present. When you listen, you'll realize something profound. Pleasure isn't given or taken, it's shared. And that's the real secret. Because what begins in the body ends in the heart. And when that happens, you don't just make love, you make her feel safe, seen, and alive again. But don't go yet, because everything you've learned so far is about to come together. In the next few moments, I'll show you how these 5 shifts, slowing down, teasing, varying, grinding, and paying attention, combine into one powerful truth that can change your entire relationship inside and outside the bedroom. So let's take a breath and bring it all together. Everything we talked about today, slowing down, teasing, varying your tempo, grinding instead of thrusting and paying attention, isn't just about better sex. It's about building trust, confidence, and connection. It's about creating moments that last long after the lights go out. I've seen men in their 30s, 50s, even 80s rediscover passion simply by changing how they approach intimacy. You don't need to be younger, stronger, or have more experience. You just need awareness, the kind that turns ordinary touch into real connection. Remember, the goal isn't perfection, it's presence. The kind that makes her feel safe, seen, and desired. When you do that, everything else falls into place. Pleasure, confidence, and that quiet strength every man deserves to feel. And before you go, take this as a small reminder, your health and your intimacy are connected. When you take care of one, you protect the other. That's why I want you to stay informed, stay curious, and stay proactive about your body. If this video helped you, don't let it be a one-time thing. Hit like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell. That way you won't miss the next episode where we'll talk about practical, science-backed ways to boost your energy, blood flow, and performance naturally. And do me one more favor. Save this video, come back to it, and share it with another man who might need to hear this message today. You'd be surprised how many are struggling in silence. Now, I'd love to hear from you. Which part of this conversation hit home for you the most? Was it slowing down, teasing, or learning how to really listen? Drop a comment below. I read every single one. Take care of your body, your confidence, and your relationships. You deserve to feel strong, connected, and alive at every age.